I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Finance meeting for Monday, August 15th, 2016 to order. First order of business is public forum. Is there anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Hearing none, let's move on to item 2, approving minutes. 2.1, regular meeting minutes, July 18. Comments, questions, additions, deletions? I will take the opportunity to, on page 1, Ken, I think Andy Potashny did send out a spreadsheet on the authorized but unissued bonds. Was that satisfactory?
I did not get that, but I did look it up in the CAFR like he suggested, so.
Okay. Well, he had sent out a spreadsheet. Did anyone else get it?
I'll have to check and see if it got kicked out. I don't recall seeing that.
Okay. And then also, Tracy, thank you for sending out the technology study as well. Appreciate that. Did everybody get that?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else with things on minutes? Yes, Ken.
Yeah, on page 2, first of all, the motion, it's the minutes, not the minute.
Yes.
But I requested an accounting of how much money was still owed to Fusco. What I did get was a spell out of what we had paid to Fusco through the end of July. I was concerned with what the total obligation was to that firm and how much remained now that the school is open and so forth.
If you'll allow me, during the high school report, I will have a
Okay,
few things.
great.
And that will be one of the things I
Great.
go over, is the amount left. So,
Anybody else?
I have just a question or comment on page 3 under expenditures. I think we might just want to clarify this, and I don't want to put words in Mr. Potokny's mouth, but
Again, he's
it says, Mr. Potokny said currently expenditures are under a little over $2 million, but that will change. And I wasn't quite sure what that means.
I circled it as well, and I figured out what it was as I kept on reading.
I think he meant to say are a bit under 2 million left. He's basically, there was about $2 million left in expenditures, but they would be offset by July expenditures and encumbrances. He was trying to say it's not going to be a $2 million surplus, it's going to be something less than that. So, I don't know, you want to take a shot at wording it?
I guess the question I had was that the current expenditures are a little
Under budget.
under budget
Budget.
by $2 million, so.
Maybe that's just it. Said expenditures are currently under 2 million.
Approximately
expended
2
or
million unexpended.
Unexpended, yeah.
I just, it's just kind of unclear.
Yeah.
It was to me anyhow,
Yeah.
so.
All right, so what are we agreeing to? How do you want to say it?
Mr. Potokny said currently expenditures are a little under $2 million. Unexpended. Yeah.
Unexpended, okay. But that will change, and it did. Anything else? Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? No. Item 3, correspondence, 3.1, standing, let's 3.2 because we don't have 3.1.
We have a standing building from July 12th, which we never discussed.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of a report
Okay.
On the July 12th one?
on the July. Now, everyone received July.
We
There's
did.
been a bit of a timing issue here on the building committee and us getting the notes or the minutes from there. I know June we reviewed last month, and now we received July, I believe, the day after our last Board of Finance meeting on the 18th.
That's correct.
We received them on the 19th.
Right.
So I could either review the July and assume no one read them, or everyone read them. If they have any questions, let me know. I won't go over it. The August meeting I would have reported on, but at the last minute I was called out for the office. I had a business issue that I had to take care of, and I was not able to attend the August meeting. So when those meeting minutes come in, I'm assuming they'll be here probably tomorrow
Tomorrow, right.
or
Right.
very soon after. So
But why don't you
What-
give- why don't you give us the highlights of the
The highlights from
ones?
July are, they're very, very brief. Just, there was the building committee had moved forward, or recommended to move forward with an RFP process for the performance contracting proposals. The Adams project for the windows and doors, there were a couple of cameras that were outstanding. Those should probably be complete by now. Melissa Jones security upgrades, the heat pumps and the concrete issue were outstanding, but being worked on. 595 New England Road, also known as the Science Wing Fitness Center, Wellness Center, whatever you want to call it. It will probably be, has probably been closed out for August, or as of the August meeting. The air conditioning for that building, they did go back out for a cost, for pricing, and it was about $50,000 higher than the original. So it's been decided that there's not funding for the downstairs air conditioning at this time.
Can I ask a question about that, Mike?
Yes.
Yes? You sure?
Yes, I don't know if we'll be able to answer it, but sure.
In the Board of Education minutes from their operations committee, I was a little confused.
Right.
They talked about the fitness center, 595, is complete, closing that project out. Then the next sentence is, air conditioning in the cardio room and downstairs room has not been done yet. Two separate funding sources? How do you close out a project?
It was
and then say,
supposed to be part of the same bond for the work that was done. For, the air conditioning was out of the town, I believe, out of the town bonding
okay,
of the, whatever the amount was, I can't remember, 1.1 million or something.
okay.
But with all the renovations that happened there, the air conditioning just ended up being an expense that was an alternate, and it was just cost prohibitive at this point. If anybody else wants to comment on it.
Good.
Baldwin, just a reminder on the Baldwin Windows and Doors project, that is going to be done next summer, but there's some destructive testing, which just means they have to take a window out and door and do some testing on that. That was supposed to be done by now. And then it'll go out to bid probably over the fall to be well prepared for next summer.
Could you comment on item 6,
On item 6.
the concrete foundation problem?
Yeah, that was the issue I brought up last month, that there's just an issue regarding whether the local official will accept the concrete testing results, which were, they didn't meet certain limits that the code official would typically approve. There's no safety issues, it's just a matter of the concrete test did not come back the way it should have, and there's numerous other ways that the concrete met requirements, but the local building official ultimately has to say. So it's up to the code official to say whether they approve the concrete as installed. As you'll see in the minutes, it does say that there's the structural engineer reviewing items and waivers from the state, and there's a lot of other processes you can go through. But as it does state there, the chairman of the building committee said that he didn't think that the building official would accept the solution, but they've got to look into it. Solution being the override of the testing that was done. That's all it was. It's hard for me to explain it, not being a structural engineer.
So it's still an
But
open, it's an open issue.
It's an open issue, it's just a matter of getting the building official to approve what the solution is, whether it's a reinforcement of the concrete or allowing the structural engineer and the other entities that reviewed it to accept them.
Yeah, but if it has to be corrected, nobody's
No.
estimated any price then?
But, well, it wouldn't be us.
Okay,
Anything that
No,
would be
no, no, I
redone on
wouldn't-
that would be borne by the contractor.
right,
Right.
okay, good.
Right. The only other thing I was going to mention is the poles, the replacement of the light poles at the high school. I can tell you that a month ago I went there and they were down. I haven't been by there in a while. Probably our Board of Ed reporters could tell us more about the status of that, but I believe the poles might be installed by now. Is that the light poles at the turf
They're
field?
being shipped this week. and
Okay.
Work on conduit and so forth is being done. But we expect them in time for the football season.
Right. I know they were down and the old poles were down. They were down about a month ago, so that was the only other thing, so that's all I have.
Ken, did you have any other questions on it?
I was just going back to the role of ECG and that the whole responsibilities of ESCO and whether that was moving forward, that the energy saving proposed contractor would presumably be saving us money or not receive any benefit
That is
from
correct.
the effort.
That's correct.
Could you explain that a bit?
I could, but I'd be reading right off of the meeting minutes.
But it's still-
Ultimately,
No commitment has been made to.
no. The RFP goes out to ESCOs, which are energy savings companies.
ESCO, yeah.
ESCOs, and they come in, and if they can't find a savings for us, they don't get paid. They have to meet a certain threshold to, over a period of time, usually 3 to 5 years, to find a savings. If they don't, then it's up to our consultant, who is ECG, to either say, no, that's not worth it, or that project's worth, so they would select which projects and then recommend them.
Johnson Controls.
Yes. Very
Is that
similar.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Except Johnson Controls, we paid flat out. It was not a recovery. They did not get paid
That's right.
based on the savings.
So that was
We just were promised a lot of savings.
a long issue.
All right, anything else on minutes? All right, pension minutes. Anything? Any comments, questions, et cetera?
No.
No, none here either. All right, let's move on to item 4, review and accept the report of expenditures of the Board of Education. And we'll take it in 2 formats. The materials for July for fiscal year 2015-2016 as 4.1. Good evening. Good evening. Anything of note
Well,
on the July stuff?
Well, let's, if we start off with the last report for fiscal year 15-16.
Yep.
The total expenditures were $1,103,919.35. There was some revenue, so the total is as listed there. You'll notice, though, that we did finish the fiscal year in a in the black, if you will, within the appropriated amount, but it was close. It was very close, and it was close for a lot of reasons. We've talked about them through the year, but as it turned out, I think subject to maybe a couple of loose ends, we're going to be within $20,000 or $21,000 of our budgeted amount. But the good news is that we were within the appropriated amount despite some really very challenging issues that came up, many around the area of special ed, as we've talked about before. But we were able to do this within appropriations. Now, and I should say that there is a very large budgetary payment within the 15-16 fiscal year, where, as the board knows, teachers in teacher contracts before 1998. We were obligated to pay for a certain amount of unused sick time when teachers retired. That has not been a component of any of our contracts since 1998, but PE teachers that were hired before then still have that contractual right. So there was a budgetary payment out of last year's budget toward all but I think 2 of the retiring teachers, and in a total amount of $30,000 approximately per teacher. So that is something we were able to mostly clean up in the last year, and that is reflected in this in the warrants under Annuity Investors Life Insurance Company, and the total is $352. There are, I suppose that, well, there are Clotter Farms on the July last fiscal year's warrants. At Clotter Farms, there's a ticket booth that's going to be, that has been actually, as I understand it, put at the football field. That is going to be reimbursed from the high school building committee. That is their responsibility. But the rest really is I think more or less ordinary. I should note that there are going to be some substantial payments for special ed transportation. We did at our last meeting vote again to award, to divide up the bidding process for each of the special ed routes, bus routes, so that for any one route, we might ask 4 or 5 different companies to bid on it, but no one company is allowed to bid on all, or is not going to automatically be awarded all of the routes. We started doing this, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. It has wound up saving us hundreds of thousands of dollars because we've been able to get very good prices. That some companies are just able to do it more efficiently or more cheaply and still providing good service. So we do expect that to carry forward, and those savings are going to be reflected during the entire year. So that closes out effectively the last fiscal year. The expenditures for the month of July 2016, this is the new fiscal year 16-17, were $2,434,440. Again, these are mostly relatively ordinary. There is one payment for, it's reflected in here as 3 teachers to Annuity Investors Life. It actually was able to be shifted. It's only 2. And so we were able to move that back. There is a payment on our technology lease at the beginning of the year rather than the end of the year. There is a payment of $9,500 to the International Baccalaureate Association. That process proceeds. We are very optimistic about being recognized as an international baccalaureate school, and we really look forward to that program. I think either Mr. Doe or I can answer questions about these warrants, but I do have a couple of other things I'd like to bring to your attention.
All right, let's start with 2015-16 fiscal year. Any questions on that?
I have 16, 17.
Mike?
More on the meeting minutes.
Okay, hold on.
Can we go to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Page 2 of the July 11th meeting minutes. Understanding there's probably been answers from the last board meeting that we might not be catching up on, but under communications, number 6, and maybe this is a little bit more for the general public watching on TV.
Yep.
What about the trees?
Yep, I can answer that.
At Adams. And
I can answer that. I know the answer to that.
I would love you to answer it,
Okay.
because I know there's been a lot of speculation. Let's put the speculation to rest.
Yes, we have decided that we hate trees, and that's not true. Actually, we love trees. But no, the town tree warden inspected the trees as part of a routine inspection of trees in high-traffic areas that presented particular risks to pedestrians. The town tree warden, who has the responsibility, this isn't a Board of Education responsibility, the tree warden has responsibility over any town tree. That is, any tree within the right-of-way of a highway or any tree on town property. He inspected those trees and ordered them to be taken down. They said that they presented a risk and they were unsafe, and they, particularly sitting at a bus loop where you get hundreds of children a day with school buses and parents dropping children off, that they presented an unreasonable risk to students. So he did order them removed. They were removed at Board of Education expense. However, the town, I understand, is actually going to replant some trees there that don't grow to quite that height and don't present a safety risk. So that is the answer to that question. Yes.
Thank you.
It was a tree warden decision. He didn't ask our opinion. I wouldn't have offered it if he'd asked.
Steer clear of the Bradford Bears.
I think that's fair to say. Having had a Bradford pear fall in my wife's car at church on Mother's Day this year, or last year, I'm aware of that risk.
So back to the educational part
Yes.
of our program. Same page.
What page?
Same page, page 2. Under board agenda at the end of personnel items. There was a comment or an update that they were looking at for the kindergarten enrollment. Just wondering if that enrollment number, I knew you would have it. Of course you do.
The reason I brought it is because as part of our budget process this year, we warned you that we might have to hire another kindergarten teacher. The good news is that as of today, it does not look like we're going to have to hire another kindergarten teacher. Our enrollment for kindergarten as of August 5th, now this is a week old and it's more likely to go up than go down by the start of school. As of August 5th, our kindergarten enrollment was 196. So that is a little more than we projected, but right now that would allow our kindergarten class sizes to range at Cox 3 sections, 16, 16, and 17. Jones, 3 sections, 17, 17, and 18. Lakes, 3 sections, 17, 17, and 17. And Leet, 3 sections, 15, 15, 14. So
That's
now,
good.
yeah, it's not bad. So you might, the next question is, how does that compare to our projections that we had a couple of years ago in the demographic study? It's still quite a bit above that, the projected level. That we're at 196 today, or a week ago. It was projected that we were going to have 167. So we are running 20% above the projected numbers in the demographic study that was completed not very long ago. This is the second year in a row that the projections have been significantly off. We are actually talking about whether it would be useful, and in what ways would it be useful to go out again and have the demographer update the data, given that given that the last one was almost to the person accurate, and this one is so far off. Something is different, and we need to try to identify that.
And it's the same demographer who did both
Yeah.
surveys, right?
Yeah. I mean, and like I say, the first one it was within 5 or 8 or something. It was crazy. But no, there's some dynamic within the town that has changed, just based on, so that the enrollment just based on based on births and marriages, which was really the primary drivers. It's changed, and we just need to identify. I think we need to identify what we're going to talk about that.
Is all-day kindergarten a component of that?
It could be, but that
20% is a little high.
Yeah, it's 20% above the projection, right? Our classes are really holding fairly steady. This would be, if we don't get any additional kids in, this is very close to our second grade class and our third grade class. It's 15, 20 lower, but again, this isn't the final number.
For years, we've typically seen a big increase between kindergarten and first grade.
Oh, sure.
The enrollment would be 25% higher than.
Oh, we're not seeing that at all anymore.
Not anymore.
No. Anybody who wants a full day program for kindergarten is now in our
here,
district,
right.
and rather than outside. So, our elementary enrollment is going to be and our K to 4 is going to be close to where it was last year. It's going to be a little bit less probably, but not materially.
Ken?
On the same set of minutes on page 4, the extension of the superintendent's contract, I note that you included a 2.25% increase for the current year,
Right.
16-17, but that you have also extended the contract through 18-19
Under terms to be negotiated.
to be
Yes.
negotiated.
Yeah, the way we do it with the superintendent is we negotiate his salary and compensation package year to year based on criteria within his contract. There is not an automatic increase.
Exactly.
The way we wrote the language is that there are certain factors that would be taken into account. And this year, it's not that 2.25 is probably the lowest increase that he has had since he came here. But I think it reflects just the economic situation rather than any aspect of his performance. I think we are still very pleased with his performance, and I think that's shared by most people in the district and really around the state.
Other questions?
Some questions on 16-17.
Go ahead.
The July 11th meetings, we were talking about projections for the kindergarten special education. Any ideas as to the numbers there in terms of students? Is it going to remain constant?
The outplaced children?
Yeah.
I haven't, we didn't get a report on that last meeting. Do you have any other
Yeah,
information about that?
in my discussions with the special ed director, right now, we are just slightly under what we budgeted by 1, maybe 2 students, but as you know, that can change. So right now, we're holding at a good number.
You currently have 32, right? That's what it said in the minutes, I believe.
If that's what it said, then.
Yeah.
I thought it was 29 or 30, but I thought the minutes said 32.
I think there might be some changes, but I can send you out
And you're
the,
budgeting 32 again?
for the private tuition, I believe it was 29. And then there's public tuition, which is a different number. But I can send you out numbers, an update on the number of students that we
The
expect.
big number that we see all the time is the private tuition, is it not?
What you see is a combined number for both public and private.
So in other words, when we're talking about public tuition, like if somebody is at ACES in a high-needs program or sometimes another town, that'll be reflected in that tuition line, but it's a public tuition rather than a private provider like a...
So that'll be in
like-
the ACES line, the ACES tuition line then?
Could be, yeah, for that, probably, yes. For that, yes.
What you see on your
Okay.
report is a combined for all tuition, public and private. But I can get you an update and send it out tomorrow on where we are with current numbers.
Thank you.
No, I just recall 3 million in tuition for 30 kids was
It was in our,
100,000
actually,
per
it was in our
student.
meeting minutes from last month,
Okay.
because I had read earlier, said he's,
Yeah, so that's why I was,
It's around,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
and-
around.
and that was,
Same number.
Yeah,
and that
it's-
was Sue Renner's answer was there about 30 students and about 3 million, because you had indicated it was about 3 million. So, Ken?
Yeah, two
I have
questions.
one question. I noticed that in the August 8th minutes, there were some transfers to salaries to purchase services and tuition, also transportation. And the money was coming from employees' benefits, transfer from supplies, materials, and capital. How is that going to affect meeting the expenses of employee benefits and supplies? In other words, if you're taking money out from there, putting it here, how are you going to balance the budget with those other items where the transfer is coming from?
Well, we wound up doing very well this year. Employee benefits is really the health line, the health insurance line.
Okay.
We wound up doing very well this year. You know, we have come a long way from where we were 3 years ago, I think, when we were in, out of balance.
A little longer than 3 years.
Well, 4 years, whatever it was. It's been a while, but we were out of balance, or underfunded, or whatever you want to call it, in the health insurance line by $1 million.
$1 million, right.
And that has completely turned around. So this change from employee benefits, it's first of all very small. Second of all, it will have no impact on our ability. We still have a reserve in the health insurance line, so it's very positive. The other lines, they're in such modest amounts that I think that we are able to complete the program and do what we need to do within even accepting these transfers. Is there $25,000 in capital projects that we would like to do? Of course. But we had already expended pretty much the majority of that anyway. And so we're very sensitive to not, that's a line that obviously is tempting to cut because it doesn't affect salaries, doesn't affect supplies, doesn't affect some other issues. But we've tried very hard not to cut it. We've tried very hard to expend what was budgeted and actually increase that and year to year, and we have done that. I think we're up at around 550,000 right now, I believe, in that line. So are we happy about it? No. But we're happy that we're within appropriated amounts and we'll be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ken?
Yeah, I have, on 1617, Linda notes that there's revenue for July of $3,000 for the pre-K program. How much revenue do we anticipate for the year, and how is that estimated?
My recollection is, you may have a better answer for this than I do, but we charge regular ed, the pre-K program is a program that's mandated by the federal government for certain high-needs special education children who are a year before kindergarten. It's also mandated that we make that program available to a roughly equal number of regular education children for a couple of reasons, but predominantly because it's an advantage within the special education program to co-teach, if you will, the regular ed children and the special education children. Although we have to offer those spaces to regular ed children, we don't have to do it for free. So we can charge them a price, a fee, to attend the pre-K program if they are regular education children. We've talked a lot about this over the years, about whether we are within the market for a high-quality pre-K program. I think we haven't looked at it in the last couple of years, but I think our feeling is that the market hasn't changed a whole lot since the last time we looked at it, just based on the way inflation is right now. And so could we move that $100 per student? Yeah, maybe, but it's not a huge number regardless.
So that's the estimated revenue for the year.
I think that's the actual revenue for that.
No, it'll be more than that.
Okay.
That's just, that
Well,
was
that's-
just,
For that.
this 3,000 is just the beginning. If
Right.
they fill every slot for the typical peers, could be about $40,000 total, if we fill every one.
We charge around, I want to say it's 2,500 or 2,000? It's in that area.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there.
It's not out of line for a program of that nature. And I should say, though, while you're reminding me, we did vote at our last board meeting to slightly increase school lunch prices at all three levels, an increase of 25 cents for elementary and middle school, and at the high school, 25 cents in the base lunch, but up to, if we're going to offer more choices, and so the increase could be higher at the high school, depending on whether the person chooses the high, it's tiered pricing, and there will be different menus, and if the student chooses the higher option, they'll have that opportunity, but it'll cost somebody more money.
And there is a line item in the warrants for $25,000 for Guilford Dining Services.
Yes. They had a cash flow issue because the state had not released the May and June federal and state reimbursements funds. So until those checks came in, we basically loaned them some money, and the checks should be in, actually, I expect it this week, and then they'll pay it back. It was to solve a cash flow issue with them.
Since we're onto that warrant page, can you just tell me what this Guilford Savings Bank $63,000, 30% contribution number is?
That's for the employees who have the HSAs. That was putting in 30% of the deductible amount is the board share, and there'll be another deduction, another contribution in January, also for 30%.
Okay.
Board of Ed's putting in 60% of the deductible.
That's what the new health insurance plans.
There's a prepaid diesel fuel expense of $36,000. Is that for buses, school buses, or?
Yes, we
really?
pay for the diesel for the school buses, and we contracted for a certain amount, and we didn't use it all by the end of the contract, so we prepaid it. We'll have to pay storage fees for a couple months until we use up that prepaid amount.
And what's the time period, would you say, for the prepaid amount?
I'm expecting by the end of September, we should have it all used up. They should be able to take delivery of all of that by the end of September.
I'm sorry, just backtracking for a second. So this HSA contribution, is that for an old contract, or is this for anticipated for new contracts that are currently being negotiated?
No.
What is it?
The existing contract.
For the existing contract?
Existing contract. This isn't teachers or administrators, it's probably custodian?
No, it was
it's not
support
custodians.
services.
Support services, okay.
So
Support
this is just
services
for
contract.
support services?
Right.
Okay.
So it's a completely different insurance situation. This is going to be one that's going to be hard to piece together without looking at the entire package.
Okay. Do you know how many employees are affected this represents?
I want
I
to
don't
say,
remember.
90, but I might.
Yeah, that's not all of them are in the HSA, though.
Okay.
I don't remember how many are in the HSA. I could get to that number.
Going back to the July 11th minutes of the board meeting, there was, on section 10.3 to be exact, curriculum instruction, there was a comment that there is evidently a change of the schedule at Baldwin Middle School, and there's some consideration of changing the schedule at Adams. I'm not sure what that is exactly and how that will be affected, if at all, by bus scheduling, if that changes.
It really has nothing to do with bus scheduling. This is more instructional. We went to an entirely different instructional model at Baldwin, and there was a lot of, there was a much greater use of study halls, for example, at Baldwin, and I think most of us thought there should be. There were, and it was all driven by a particular need relating to music instruction, and I think we really just, the new principal there just was able to work out an accommodation that increased instructional time, particularly in mathematics, very dramatically, and was able to reach an accommodation with the music instruction program. So it was a classic win-win, where much greater use of the time was for much greater time was used for instruction rather than study halls. So we may go, and I think I think the principal, Mrs. Walker, is considering what lessons can be drawn from that, and whether there are some aspects of that that may be useful at Adams, but we're not there. That is not going to happen this month.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. That sounds great.
Anything on 2016, 2017 budget? Any specific questions?
I have one question on, on the warrants, there's an item for the New England, 595 New England Road security monitoring. That's the old science one, right? So is that going to be a town expense going forward? I know we're trying to keep the two things as segregated as possible. And it's a small amount, $300, but I don't want to get any of us to get tripped up on it.
I don't know how that particular bill came to us as opposed to them.
Okay.
We've been very cooperative with the town, obviously.
No doubt.
and-
I assume it's I just don't know what to assume, but I just wanted to.
There have been, and I'm not sure specifically about this one, but there have been some bills that we have paid and we've billed Park and Rec for it because they've taken on the responsibility for it. This may be one, but I'm not 100% sure. I can check on that one.
Okay, if you could, that'd be
There were
great.
so many of them, I
Great.
don't want to misspeak on it.
Any others? Hearing none?
I should just say, I told you we have a very modest surplus. It's our present inclination to just put that money into a pension account. If there's not any objection from this board, I know it's technically we can do what we think is appropriate, but I did just want to let you know, and we are in pretty good shape on the pension. I think we're, depending on what study you look at, we're either 90-something or high 80s something in terms of funded, but I think it's our inclination that if we could just fold that into the pension, that would be our preference.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Noted. We'll be having some discussions about what we do with the surplus this year. I think we already started talking about that last month. So, anything further for either? If not, is there a motion to accept the report of expenditures of the Board of Education for fiscal year 2016 to 2015, 2016 for July expenditures?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to accept the report of expenditures of Board of Education for July expenditures for fiscal year 2016, 2017?
Move.
Second? Someone?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, none. Thank you very much. Sure.
Are we going to get the numbers then to answer Mr. Gammerman's question, funds remaining? Did I miss that? Did you get the answer? Do we know how much more is left to pay?
It was deferred for Mike's report.
Okay.
Mike said he was going to.
So you're going to get back, Mike's going to get back to us on that?
No, I think he has the numbers now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
this is on the report on the Guilford High School
Okay, fine.
building. I'll put it all on.
Okay, thank you.
God bless you. Okay. Item 5, review and approve expenditures for town government. We have two sets of numbers. We have munis reports, I believe, right? For fiscal year 2015, 2016. We do not have the reports for July for 2016, 2017 warrants only per agreement with Linda Savitsky. And to those in the viewing audience, Linda Savitsky is, this is a term of art, Joe. It's not interim. It is our substitute for interim, right? Finance director. So, and I've had the pleasure of working with Linda on something recently, and this is obviously a difficult position, although Linda's got significant experience in municipal financial management at the local and at the state level. So the idea here is not to try to stump the expert, but Linda will do her best to answer whatever we have. Is there anything you want to bring to our attention at this point?
No, other than which is not the way I normally like to start anything, but you do not have certain reports for June just because we're not there yet on some of them. You don't have a capital report. What you have from the building department is an updated report through the end of May. We do not have the numbers yet for June. We do not have a golf course report, again, because there's data that has to be processed through the system. And probably the single biggest thing is we're not bringing you any transfers tonight, because before we can close the year down, and we've had some conversations with Matt, before we close the year down, there's a number of things that have to be booked. And then that's going to tell us where we are with the need for transfers. I think we have identified a minimum of 3 departments that are going to need transfers, but it's possible once the payroll accruals get posted. And one thing we didn't have a chance to talk about was when we would ask you to take a look at the transfers, because I think there's some concern that we don't want to wait till September 19th to close the books, because we need you to hopefully approve the transfers we bring you, and then we can close the books and move forward. So if between the first selectman and the chairman of the board,
If we need a special meeting, we'll call.
yeah, we'll work something out. so
Yeah,
we can
well,
get-
what I was going to ask, we're going to need an interim meeting before
Probably a
before September.
special,
Yep.
yeah,
That's fine.
probably a special, and I'd like to hope that we're either going to do it that very, Labor Day, I think is like the 4th or the 5th, something
5th,
like that. I think our hope is that we might be able to get it done that week.
That week. Right.
Yeah.
right after Labor Day.
Yeah, our goal is that we're going to try to get all this information pushed through by the end of next week,
Right.
so we can start to run some reports, and then once we do that, we can sit down and go through with you where we think we are.
What would the board's pleasure? You want to try to, yeah, I was going to say, what would the board's pleasure? We want to save a tentative meeting for the 6th if it works
Is that
with
a
everybody's
Tuesday, or
calendars? That would be the
what's that?
Tuesday file, you're out?
meeting is the 6th.
Are you at all week or just that day?
Oh, ouch.
I'm out.
Minor, I hope.
Well, a little
Well,
bigger
it's not-
than minor, but
yeah, well-
nothing life-threatening.
Yeah, It would be, yeah.
So, yeah, that
All
week's
right.
not going to work for me.
So that week doesn't work.
No.
I'll be out
And these are transfers. that are-
Yeah,
they're
it
pretty
should be
perfunctory,
fine. I think it'll be fine.
What do we
Okay.
need for a vote? Do we need a supermajority?
No,
or
no,
just a
no, we
majority?
don't need, we,
You-
straight
Mr. Golish
majority.
just said he can't be there either.
That's fine.
country.
That's fine. Everybody else? Yeah,
On
let's,
on the 6th,
I cannot do
On
that. I
Sat-
just can't remember, let me check.
on September 6th?
right,
Yeah, that's when the board of selectmen meets, the 6th.
yeah. So you guys will do them in the morning?
You would like us to meet that day?
Yeah.
Or anytime.
Or every day, or anytime that week, except Friday.
You're out all week, I think, as well, right?
2 weeks they'll be gone, yes.
So September 6th,
The subsequent week or the previous week?
We're leaving
Yeah,
the 4th, coming
Oh,
back.
so it's the subsequent.
What day is the 6th?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday's the 6th.
Fine, fine.
I'm available.
I'm available.
Got a quorum?
All right, let's book it. Tracy, you want to post that, please? Times have changed, huh? Everybody goes to their PDA.
Okay, so again, I wanted to tell you what you weren't getting tonight. So,
Thank you.
first thing we have, and remember, these are all very preliminary numbers.
Right.
Start with the revenue. You have a report summary of 15, 16. The good news is that right now we are showing in excess $730,000, which is pretty good considering this is the year that the state cut state revenues during the year. And some of the towns have not been able to manage some of these cuts as well as Guilford. So, and tax collections were very good. She's showing right now, without any adjustments, that she basically collected $436,000 more than was budgeted for her to collect. These numbers on revenue should be pretty close to final. I don't know that we've got a whole lot of receivables we're going to be
left,
booking,
yeah.
but
They should be close.
these should be pretty close.
The only thing that typically would be outstanding would be anything additional fire or police, right? Fire or, and other family services, right? But,
Not Park and Rec?
No, I'm thinking if there's any ambulance billings that are...
yeah, that's a fire, that's out of the fire,
anything like that.
right?
And there may be some receivables that we just haven't posted yet.
Okay. Well, we've got a little time. Good. Anybody have specific questions on revenue?
No, looks okay.
Okay. On the expense side, What we're giving you tonight is, I guess, what we're going to call preliminary 2. I guess you got a preliminary
Preliminary
1
one,
during
yeah.
your
During
July
August.
meeting. This is preliminary 2. It would appear, again, with several caveats, there are some entries that may not have been booked yet. We're pretty sure we're there on the actual expenses, but we know that we've got some encumbrances yet. We're looking at $1.5 million where and that's including the $21,004 from the board. So if you allow them to do whatever they asked you to do, that number's going to get dropped back a little. But roughly, we're talking, so if we look at it strictly the town, we're looking at $1.4 million, and you add that to the 730, and that's pretty good results of
2.2,
operations. But
yeah.
as I said, there's some entries that have not yet been made. Right now, it would appear the registrars, the Natural Resources Department, and the, get my line straight here, the Fire Department. Debt services, we believe that's a journal entry that has to be clarified.
Yep.
But those are the 3 departments right now that are in the negative that we're going to have to cover with transfer.
Good. Joe, I know you're the one that usually takes the hardest look at this. Encumbrances, all those are going to be fully expended, you think? There was
They're still,
52,000 for
they're
police.
still under review, and as Linda can tell you, the finance department is in the process of canceling
Some more.
all encumbrances that are not going to be used.
Good.
As you can see, there's only 112,000 left to be
Okay.
deleted.
Yep. Okay. So that number could grow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Just a clarification, we're looking at a couple of departments with substantial surpluses, owing to what I suspect are unique circumstances. Police Department, $200,000 in salary. We've been down staff positions, I believe, in the police department. Is that the answer for $200,000 worth?
Correct, but the Board of Selectmen, I don't know if it's reflected in here yet, did approve a couple of additional expenses for the police department recently.
Okay.
All right, that for some defensive equipment. So that number is going to change slightly.
Okay.
But to answer your question directly, most of that surplus is due to personnel.
Joe, that equipment would come out of their operating budget as opposed to the capital budget?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yeah. The individual items are not such that we would charge it to capital.
Gotcha. The other line item that is quite significant is Public Works, Engineering and Public Works. Couple of items specifically, summer road maintenance and winter road maintenance. Is that a reflection of the mild winter?
Right.
Okay.
I have a question
Certainly.
on expenditures. Why is the debt service greater than anticipated, greater than budgeted?
This is one of the entries that we're waiting to get in. It has to do with the expense that was incurred, I believe, for interest on a bond sale that occurred.
That was a bond sale that occurred last August,
Right.
and the entry was never made.
Right.
The actual expense for it is sitting on the balance sheet,
Right.
and it's one of the year-end entries that have to be made
Right.
I
to
see.
wipe that out. Yeah.
I see.
So that'll come into line.
That'll be brought into line.
Yeah.
So I had a question actually on the insurance. And I'm sorry if this has come up before, but I just don't remember. There's $180,000 of excess expenditure in insurance? I mean, it seems like an odd place to have a surplus.
I can speak for the town, I can't speak for the town, but I'm on State Insurance Commission, and our premiums have really been coming in under, on property casualty for a number of years, just because of the marketplace. So I don't know whether that's the same kind of experience that the town has had.
Actually, we've seen it now 2 years in a row, because after we crafted the 2017 budget, the town got rates from the insurance companies that allowed them to use that line item when they made their cuts after one of the failed budget referendums. But the two line items that make up the bulk of that are workers' comp insurance, right? That's $108,000, right? And then the other thing we had was a Kermit distribution, 40, remember the,
distribution.
yeah.
So that goes back into that,
Yep, it's a
Right,
credit
into
to
that
that
account.
account.
credit to that account.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's still substantial, it's still
I'm looking for
140,000.
the actual account, can't find it, but I can tell you off the top of my head that we budget very little on the equity distribution, something like 10,000 if we budget it all. And this year, we got a check for like $54,000. We budgeted 10.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, that's great.
Other questions? We're good?
Okay, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, I guess, sets of warrants. The weekly checks, which I'm still trying to wrap my arms around how you pay bills here. But this is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, this is sort of regular recurring things that are on a normal basis, fuel utilities, things like that. Then there's the regular warrant report, which are those actual expenditures that have been cut since your last meeting. And then there is a special fund weekly check run. Again, those are greater than 1,000, and those are pretty much all off general fund budget. So I don't know if I can answer, I will do the best I can of answering any questions.
Lou?
There's one item on the general fund weekly checks, page 8. It's a legal line item. It's listed as septic repair.
I'm going to defer to the first selectman on that one.
Close to 10,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I can answer that, but I'd rather do it
In executive
on
session?
executive
It
session.
says it's a legal matter, so
Yeah.
that, when I first saw that, it's legal, and then as I read the detail, I understand that response. That's fine, so we can
Okay.
get it
I'll
offline.
be happy to tell you in executive.
Thank you.
Others?
I had one warrant question on page 16, I just didn't know. There's a physician listed as the recipient of close to $18,000 for professional services, contracted services.
I'm sorry, what page was that?
18, the second set of warrants?
Second set of warrants, I think, page 16.
Oh, 16, I'm sorry, I thought you said 18.
I think it's in Youth and Family Services.
Paul, yes, I believe that's what I was, Dr. Al Fishroy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was told, it was youth and family.
Is that youth and family?
Yeah.
So-
That's the position that is on a contractual basis.
Oh, he's on a contractual
Yeah,
basis.
right.
What period of time does that warrant cover?
We contract him for a year, and I can't tell you exactly what period that's for, but he's a psychiatrist.
Okay, but that's for youth and family services?
Yes, that's correct. He's able to write script for the patients.
I had one question on special fund, but this is just something that's been with us forever, and I saw the dedicated road fund appearing, and
Aren't you happy?
yeah, right. And my question is, how much money is there in the dedicated road fund?
I couldn't tell you at the moment. I'd have to look at the
This
balance
was
sheet.
about $8,600 expended.
I think I have a file that Sheila had produced. It was updated through June 30th of 2015. I know I have that somewhere in my
It's in the annual
files.
report.
I can-
It's also in the annual report.
I can get that for you,
Can you? Thank you.
yeah. I'm sorry, do you want to know how much we started with, or how much is available?
How much is in there?
How much is in? Okay.
Sheila actually has a nice spreadsheet that details the flow-throughs, and
All of
over,
those funds.
yeah,
Yeah.
or Sheila had, now you have
No, I-
it, somewhere in there. I'll take a look and see, which it might be easier to identify the file.
We have that for the land acquisition
Land
fund,
ac-
the park and rec
Right,
fund and all that.
yep.
Who's paying, just out of curiosity, who's paying for the repairs to River Street, Joe?
That was, I believe, out of I think it was out of state funding on that one.
But they're, to pay for the...
Part of it was,
The correction I'm talking about, though, the fix that they're doing, because
Oh,
everybody's
that's-
blowing out their tires.
well, part of it we're getting from the contractor on that too. Because that's also, the water company was involved with that too. Because they ripped up the road. Okay.
So they paid initially though, but the
Yeah,
contractor.
you're talking about the curbing?
The curbing there at the corner
Yeah,
where
we're
everybody and their
working
brother
that-
has lost
We're working
tires.
that out with the contractor,
Yeah.
yeah.
Loads of people. They break down right in front of my house.
Well, you know, part of the
Are you
problem
getting good at
is,
changing tires?
Yeah, I could start a business there.
part of the problem is people are just driving too fast.
Well, that's true too, but these nice smooth roads make it tempting.
That's what happens when you fix the roads.
I know. Pay for new axles because of potholes or fix curbs. Other questions, Linda? None? Well, that was pretty easy. Huh?
We haven't
We're only halfway.
We haven't done July yet.
Yeah, I know. Well, Ken jumped into July, I think, with under warrants, right?
Yeah.
16, 17. Under warrants on 16, 17.
So you have a copy of the medical benefits account projection. So far, obviously, we only have 1 month of experience.
Right,
So
right.
there's nothing really significant to report there.
Right.
I have the weekly checks and the warrant report.
Could we go back quickly to the medical
Sure.
account? And I know this is your first shot at it, but Sheila had made some assumptions in the past. Have you seen the previous reports? Would it be, how difficult would it be to populate those level of projections for expenditures? And she made some assumptions. It was basically a rolling average, I think, of the previous.
Yeah, I did this because I just want, and actually, don't pay attention to some of the numbers that are in the box. I just realized I didn't white them out. It's very difficult to project off of 1 month's worth of expenditures.
Understood.
So, and we just got the report from Anthem after I did this.
Okay.
So I would hope that we will know where we are with the ISIL premium, and it'll give me a chance to talk to the healthcare consultant and get a sense as to what's going on.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry to interrupt.
The warrants, the thick package, how's that? Because they're both dated 8/11. It's the one without the
What's that first
general
one?
fund.
So you're talking about for this year or for last year?
I'm talking about this year.
Oh, we haven't
what's the
done that
Are
yet.
we,
Yeah.
16, 17, or 15, 16?
The one that starts off Co-File Technologies.
yeah, the one that starts off with,
Oh, no.
no,
The other one.
Blackbook.
Blackbook,
we haven't-
that's
That's
16,
Yeah, we haven't
16,
done that
17.
yet.
That's
We don't
16,
have to go
17.
back. We're going forward.
That's 16, 17.
All right. Shall I wait?
No,
Shall I-
we're there, we're on
We're
16,
there?
17.
Okay.
We're on 16, 17.
That's what I thought, okay. Page, let's see, sorry, page 12. It just seemed to be a little bit odd that there is, it's alphabetically correct, but Tyler Technologies comes up in a number of property tax refund invoice descriptions. And the amount caught my eye, and then when I looked at it, I went, It says application services, and it looks like it's an accounts receivable Board of Ed. It just seemed like maybe the entry was allocated differently on that page. Linda?
You mean Tyler's in the middle of all the
Tyler's in
property
the
tax
middle of a
rate.
number of property tax
Right.
refunds, so I
Right.
just didn't, and the amount caught my eye, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, that's not a typical property tax refund entry.
No, it isn't a refund. It's a balance sheet account.
But yeah, the reason it's in the balance sheet account is because Tyler Technologies bills the town for the full Munis program, but the Board of Ed shares a portion of it. So when they pay the bill, they set up the receivable for what the Board of Ed owes the town,
Okay.
and that's why it shows up in that account.
Okay. That makes sense. It makes complete sense. It just happens to not be a tax refund, it's just an alphabetical entry for that one. Okay.
And maybe
Thank you.
I should just mention, because you are in the middle of all these tax refunds, I talked to the collector today. This is, a significant portion of this is because of the error that you saw reported in the newspapers by the DMV when they went to their new system. A significant number of people received property tax bills, and they didn't belong to us. So, and I'm making an assumption that some of these bills might have been paid through a leasing corporation, but when I talked to the tax collector today to sort of query, she said there was not an issue when they did the motor vehicle supplement in January. However, there is a big issue because it was the new list year with this problem with the whole DMV data system. So there's a number of these people, I guess there's a part of me that, I was a tax collector once, I don't understand why you pay a bill if you knew it wasn't yours to begin with, but obviously people paid the bill and then realized it didn't belong to them, and then they came in with the proof, and we give them the money back. She did indicate today that they are expecting a similar problem, which could even be worse with the motor vehicle supplement list, which is generated in October, November for billing in December, January. So this list may not be the all-inclusive list.
It won't be.
This is really just through whatever the date of the report is. There may be other of these refunds that have yet to come in.
Does that explain then why there are 9 from this cab LLC?
Oh, yeah.
The 9 of the same,
It's probably a
Same
lease,
entity
it's probably a
on
leasing
page
thing.
3.
Yeah, lease vehicles. Hang on a second, let me get to it.
page 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's probably some kind of a leased vehicle listing. The company probably, because nobody wants to pay the interest to Connecticut, so everybody pays their bills.
right.
And then somebody went back and did the detail work and realized they didn't belong to us. And that may mean that she also indicated, though, that also means the reverse is true. We are adding people to the list because they were billed by a different community, and now those folks are getting the bills. So I don't know whether this is going to be a net off, at the end, but I think this is a theme you're going to see throughout the whole year, where you're going to see these refunds come through.
Has the DMV or the state provided a corrected listing so that you could run a comparison to say how big that discrepancy was?
My gut?
Yeah.
No. That would be my gut. I don't know if
Okay.
that's an accurate statement, but my gut would say no. I think they're still having enough trouble trying to get everything to work that I'm not sure that they'd have to know.
They're continually correcting.
Right. In order to know what was wrong, you have to have a control list, and I think that's what they don't have, probably. Yeah.
I have another question. There are, I believe it's 9 entries throughout this warrant thing for the same address. One of the entities is the Equity Valuation Services, which is the firm doing our reval, I believe.
That's correct.
In Waterbury. Then there's Quality Data Service with the same address. And I guess my question really is, because they're all relatively large numbers compared to most of the numbers on here, what in total are we paying them? And some of it seems it seems odd to me. For example, the same people are the ones buying postage and envelopes and sending out the bills and are also doing the valuation. So, for example, we've got revaluation services, $6,900. We've got revaluation services, $23,000. We've got assessor software for $2,300, and then we have more assessor software lines for another $4,000 or $5,000. On page 26, we've got CAMA software support for $8,200. On page 27, we have CAMA software support for $5,700. On page, these are all billed on the same day. We've got mailing tax bills for $1,600. We've got envelopes for $600. Setup charge $3,700. So I guess my question is, how much in total are we paying them?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but it's all through a bidding process.
There were only 2 firms, though, I believe, that responded. Is that correct?
I don't remember, but it goes through a bidding process, and the bids are awarded by the Board of Selectmen.
If I could, the Quality Data has been around for a long time, and they are the firm that provides to tax collectors and assessors the lion's share of the software support services for billing and collection and creating the grand list. They offer side services such as they will print your tax bills, they will mail them for you, you will reimburse them for the postage, you will reimburse them for the envelope costs. They offer a menu of services. They are now have an LLC which also provides revaluation services. it's all going to the same address, but it is different companies and they're different contracts that you're dealing with. It's just that because this covers the beginning of the fiscal year, so there's probably payments due on the software, and because the bills went out, and because, the reval's underway, you're seeing a large number. We will have for you, I know you won't be at the next meeting, but we will have for you what the
I'll be at
values,
the next meeting.
what the various buckets, if you will, are that for the company. But this is a company that has really just grown exponentially in terms of what they're doing, so they've apparently created these little LLCs.
So when it went out to bid, then all of these components were included in the award that you made then?
Correct. Now, it used to be where they did some of that, and then all the bills used to come back in town in envelopes, and then we would have to mail them out. Okay, but now they do everything. But again, it's
So
all,
if I look at contracts that have been awarded, that contract and the amount of that contract will be on there. So if I go through and add up all these numbers.
Sure.
Should be.
It's probably going to be more than one contract, too, because your software for the collector and the assessor were done
the
probably at
reval
different
is a
times
separate
than
contract.
reval was.
The sending out the bills and doing all calculated
That went out to a
bills. is
separate
all-
bid as well?
It's all a separate contract.
Yeah, they give you, as I said, they give you an ancillary list of services, and some towns pick and choose, and some towns say, no, we want to do our own mailing, and some towns have them do it for a variety of reasons.
But those little adjunct pieces, they didn't go out to competitive bid, just the
They're
reval
part of
went out
the-
to competitive bid, I think, isn't that
It,
correct?
they would be, what you call it, alternates
Alternate.
on the bids.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all part of the specs, however, we sent the request for the proposal out.
Is it safe to assume that the only other bidder in town, in this state, offers the same level of services?
Hard to
It's
say.
pretty standard.
There
be.
are two
Could
other firms that do the collection and the assessment. One of them actually is the software that you have, financial services software, but over time, a number of communities have walked away from their tax collection and assessment. There's another firm, Walsh, that does, they're based out of either Naugatuck or Waterbury, and they also do tax collection, but they're, to the best of my knowledge, they're not in the revaluation business. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think probably all of you have received that self-assessment form by now, and I hope you all returned it because it was due, I think, July 15th. And that's part of this, sir. Yeah.
Done. Any other questions? Lou?
There's again, in the warrant report, starting with, well, in fact, this black book, on the first item on that page, cars of particular interest. I'm imagining that's a book so that, for the tax assessor, I mean, so that they can, is it for collectors' cars? I mean, is this really something that we spend $110
Yeah, what
on every year?
What happens is you get a list from the Department of Motor, let's assume it's a perfect year. You get a list from the Department of Motor Vehicles, there's no issues with where anybody is, and there will be a number of vehicles that can't be priced. They price off the VIN number, and there's going to be a number of vehicles that just can't be priced because of the unique nature of the car. So there are other resources available to the assessors to come up with the pricing for that, because they have to be able to justify what the value is. This happens to
It's
be
a collector's
the-
magazine.
Yeah, this happens to
Kelly
be
Blue
one of them,
Book.
this black book, it's, in order to really come up with it. I mean, if you're a town that has people that have some potentially high-end, unique type vehicles, and DMV can't price it off the VIN, then this is one way that you find out what the value is, a fair market value is.
All right. And then I have another one which continues a theme I had last month, which is on page 31. We have something from Pioneer Manufacturing Company, Bright Stripe White. It's a great name. Can't say that fast, though. So $7,000 for line striping, presumably for grass fields? Is that what that is? And that's $7,000 once a year?
Yeah, that's Park and Rec.
Which is money well spent for all the programs we do, but it's not something you would spend on a turf field.
No. And I think you brought that up last month in support of the turf field. Am I correct?
The water.
Yeah.
It'll be one a month, Joe. It's gonna be a slow trickle.
I'll keep an eye on,
You got the turf field
expenses.
already, so, all right?
I'm just kind of pointing out that there's complicated issues here. So then the last one that I had was
I thought that was the last one.
general fund, quick checks. It's not related to fields, I don't think. Page 6, information services. It says Delage Land and Public Financing, fiber lease. Town, maybe it's, we have to rent access to it. It's called Delage Land and Public Finance.
Townwide area network service.
Yeah.
Fiber lease.
I think that's part of the fiber tech, if I'm not mistaken. We could get back to you, I'm not sure of that one, though. Okay.
Okay, so it's just part of communications?
Pardon me?
It's part of our communication system?
It might be part of our IT system, I'm not sure.
Oh.
Okay.
Information system.
Oh,
Oh, this
information.
one. Oh,
It
okay.
is. It's related to the hardware. To
Yes.
support the wide area network, as I recall. So,
Okay.
We could get back to you on that.
That'd be great, thanks.
Any others?
The Guilford Library first half allocation for maintenance on the building, does that just go into an account so they don't have to come to you and ask you for money? What is that?
No, this is
Library, we
There's
give them
$88,000 that went out.
two disbursements a year, if that's the one you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah,
with the $88,000 one?
yeah, that's right.
So that goes into their account so they
That's
can
right.
make their capital, take care of their projects without coming every
Free
week. or
library.
month.
We don't write them a check every month.
Okay.
the concept.
We do pay their payroll every
Exactly,
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
month.
week.
Every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still weekly, right?
Yes.
So when that money gets spent, we won't see how it gets spent then?
Oh, yeah, you will, I mean, I
No.
actually have the staff of their
Well,
financials.
he just said correct, we won't, and you're saying we will. Which one?
No, we give them a disbursement twice a year.
Right.
Okay.
But they give us an accounting report.
They do
on
give
how they
us an
spend the
accounting.
money. Oh, yeah.
But we don't write
but
the checks.
No,
Okay.
but, so we won't see where that money goes though.
You'll see it if you, I mean, we already have the financial statements for last year. You'll see how it flows through the statements and how they spend the money, so they're
You
not.
won't get a warrant list from them,
I
Right.
won't get a warrant list.
You won't get a
No, you
warrant
won't get a
list.
warrant list, but that's.
but you will get a financial.
So I won't see
statement.
that they spent $30,000 on new carpeting, for example, or whatever it is they do with it.
Whatever on their financials is what you get, but not a warrant list. That's the difference.
Anything further?
Actually,
Oh,
the building permits? It said as of May.
yes. she
Through
mentioned
11
it.
months.
That's all we have is for the building. We don't have.
Okay, oh, I did, that was at the beginning.
Yeah, it's-
Okay, building permit, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Anything else for Linda? Linda, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the expenditures for town government for the June supplement, the July bills for fiscal year 2015, 2016?
Yes, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals? No. Is there a motion to approve the warrants only? Actually, we're not going to approve the warrants. We don't have to approve the warrants. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do, because that's what authorizes the payment. I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve the warrants for fiscal year 2016, 2017?
So moved.
July.
July.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals. At the September meeting, we will have the Munis financial reports for July, in addition to the September reports, correct? Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Certainly.
Which you just answered, I think, but I just want to confirm it. In the event we don't approve, that means that those bills can't be paid, is that correct?
Right.
In theory?
Theoretically.
Even though they've already been paid?
Except some of them, yeah, some of them.
But
are
that
already
is,
paid. That's-
that is what it means?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. They're held. Except for the special fund weekly checks. That's the exception.
So we could withhold payment on any one of those line items in theory?
We could. We could. Okay. Committee reports. Mike, the long-anticipated report on Guilford High School
Geez, I
building
hope I'm
committee.
not disappointed.
Well, Ken is waiting.
I know he is.
Bated breath.
Well, there's not going to be many of these left.
So what are you saying? We gotta take it off the
So,
agenda?
I thought about it.
Okay.
I did. I thought about taking off the building committee report. But I think we have a couple more months to go. So I was able to attend the meeting that occurred last week. There were a few of us that were actually there. I did want to, at least publicly on recording, on television, I've known Scott Pinkney for a very, very long time. He's been the chair of the Guilford High School Building Committee. And this is not to say the committee in a whole did not do a great job. But Scott led the effort for 5 years. And I know him both through town. I was the one who suckered him at one point to get on the standing building committee. And then he did it, and he did it in a very fine fashion. And then years later, became the chairman of the Guilford High School Building Committee on our first selectmen's prodding, as he said so eloquently that night. But there was a little ceremony for him. It is going to be, or it was his last meeting as chair last week, for good personal reasons. I believe he's going back to school to get a degree in something else. Not running building committees, but I did want to just publicly, on record, thank him for all his work for the last 5 years. He did a phenomenal job, and I've known him collegially for quite a long time as well. So I wanted to make sure that was noted
Well said.
and mentioned.
Said and shared all across the board.
I'm sure it would be, but I got to see him on a quite regular basis for a while. So, and I know he gained a lot of respect in the community for what he did. A couple of other items that I wanted to mention. The turf contract is in process. The Field 4 update, which is the turf that I'm talking about, they're looking at a completion of around October 18th. They have 73 days to complete it, so they're moving forward on that as soon as the contract is complete. The final C of O, the certificate of occupancy, was actually received on August 9th, which was last week. That's all good that we received it. That was supposed to take a year after the school opened to get the C of O because of all the field work and the demo and everything that was part of that. So it was extremely good news that C of O was received that day. The final billing, you saw one for about $600,000 in the warrants this month or last month. There will be about another $500,000 that's coming in September, and that should end the billings to O&G Fusco. They do have a little bit of work left. It's only punch list items, and then they're going to slowly, they're actually in the process of slowly releasing the retainage, which is the amount that they hold just in case there's an issue. So the $500,000 is going to be probably the last payment. Then there might be some others that trickle in, which are retainage releases. There was some issues with some of the trees. This is more for maybe the neighborhoods. Some trees didn't make it after 1 year, and those are going to be replaced. There's actually a process where the contractor goes around and looks at all the trees that maybe didn't make it, and then they replace them. They have 1 year to replace them. That will also go for next year. There was phase 2 plantings, so at this time next year there will be another review of trees that didn't make it. There's a 1 year warranty on them. If they don't make it, they get replaced. So if you go by and you see a tree that doesn't look so good, it will probably be replaced. There was some issues with radon testing. Everything's approved, everything's good, there's no issues. They get tested again, or that gets tested again in November just to make sure. But I know that there was some issues regarding that, but that's all been cleared up. I think we talked about it. There were some vents that were covered, and once they got uncovered, everything was fine. There's some outdoor lighting corrections. Again, for our neighbors, there are some lights that are not performing as much as we want to as far as a cutoff. There was a motion to approve a certain amount of money to make changes and light enhancements to those light fixtures that are basically just going to replace what's there with fixtures that are better cut off. And finally, what I just kind of went over, there is a transition plan in place with the high school building committee. Eventually they will be disbanded. I don't know exactly when that is, but it's probably over the next couple months or so, but I'm just bringing it up because at that point I think once that committee disbands them, we can take this off. But in the meantime, as payments are still going on and work, final work, that we keep it on the list. So I will say it was a very encouraging meeting, both with Scott's departure and the words that were said and where the project stands. I believe that Barbara Casey is taking over as chair. She was vice chair of the committee, so she's taking over as chair. And she did a great job, or has been doing a great job, as Scott's right-hand woman for quite a while. So. And that's the report. Any questions, or
Nicely done.
hopefully that
Well done.
answered what we have left to pay them?
Yep.
Okay. And there will still be some payments to the architects for CA, for construction administration. and
The whole
some other
fitness
things.
center issue's been
Yep.
completely resolved. There's no responsibilities now for that fitness center for
No,
the-
no,
for the school.
cut off.
Good. Thank you, Mike.
Welcome.
Old business? New business? The only thing I'll bring up, and this might have been correspondence, but included in the packet was a press release on the recent bond sale that we had. The purchase price on the bonds was 2.22%. Yeah, and we had originally forecast, what, 4% when we did this 5-6 years ago? Of course, that's also the reason why we don't get anything for our deposits on hand, but because the interest rate, it works both ways. But suffice to say, that's a terrific price, and it's gone down in this is the fourth round we've gone out for?
This is the third.
Third round.
The first round, we sold bonds at 26 million, this is for the high school,
Yeah.
at 2.96%.
Right.
That was the first issue. The second issue was at roughly 15 million at 2.79%. This issue was on August 3rd of this year, 15.6 million roughly at 2.22%, at a premium of $430,000.
Nice.
So
It may
they
help.
gave us $430,000
Yeah.
to sell our bonds.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll have some use for next year or over the next few years.
Well, some of it's going to be used to reduce the debt service in the upcoming budget.
Budget, that would be a good plan.
How many is left to sell?
I'm sorry, you squeak in my ear.
To be sold? 11?
I thought it was 9.
The
I'm
next
sorry.
round?
The next round
What's
is.
the next
How
round?
much
The
is left?
There's
Left?
one round left,
7
right?
million,
7 million left in the last round.
if we need it all.
Right. Good
And
point.
according to the high school building committee, hopefully we might not need it all, right? But
What
the
would-
7 million we did sell on short-term bonds,
Okay.
short-term notes,
Right.
at 0.68%, at premium of $180,000. So they gave us $180,000 for selling those short-term notes.
Good.
So life is good when you're a borrower, an investor, and not doing too
That's
much.
so good, that's right. Any other new business? None. Public forum? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Quick question.